All right, and we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pop Culture Cop podcast for Thursday, September 3rd, 2020.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello, we have a guest. We have Addison Binek, and I just learned how to say his name, so I'm really proud of myself. I'm happy.
Huh?
I was telling him whenever we don't have a guest like named Smith or Robertson, I get really funny because I always mispronounce names. But welcome. Addison is a filmmaker. You do. Why don't you explain who you are and what you do?
All right. I'm Addison Binek, and I do two different movie review riffing shows. Both are available on YouTube for free. The first show that I do is called Movies to Watch on a Rainy Afternoon, and it's a 15-20 minute long program where I review and riff on cheesy, horror, sci-fi, exploitation films in the style of riff tracks, but also, it's a review of the film, but sort of a compilation of sort of the best of the worst clips, from these cheesy movies with riffing commentary over the films. They're not feature-length riffs like Mystery Science Theater or riff tracks. They are, 15, 20 minutes long. And there's about 122 episodes on there on YouTube for free. And then my other movie review riffing show is called Tro Masterpiece Theater, because I hooked up with Troma a couple of years ago, and the president of the company, Lloyd Kaufman, let me use a couple films in their library to riff on. And I created a whole sort of Mystery Science Theater 3000 type riffing show with silhouettes at the bottom and puppets and stuff. And we did two of those. We did Lloyd movie, The Battle of Love's Return, and Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. And he picked those movies, he gave them to us. We did our thing. And so now we're moving on to the next thing, which is going to be called Roast Masterpiece Theater, because currently we're just not able to license any more movies from Troma at this time. So I'm retitling the show and calling it Roast Masterpiece Theater because it kind of sounds like Tro Masterpiece Theater. But it'll be a different take on movie riffing. It's going to be something different, where the characters in the show, I play a movie theater usher, and my two puppet companions are a talking box of popcorn named Corny and a talking film reel named Reely. And they're just hand puppets that my friends operate from behind the concession counter. And they come to life, but no one else really sees them. It's just me hanging out with these two puppets riffing on Troma films. But in the new show, we're going to acknowledge that the movie theater is going through a recession. We're not making any money because of COVID. And we just kind of snatch whatever money we find in our drawer and slap together our own horror film called The Cult of Frankenstein. It's going to be a really cheesy Frankenstein movie that myself, as the theater usher, will create with Corny and Reely. And it looks super cheap and super dumb and super silly, because then the culmination of the show will be us watching and kind of riffing on our own movie that we shot for super cheap.
Nice. Awesome. And you've got a Kickstarter going for that right now, right?
Yep.
And I do have a link for that in the description or in the comments below. And yeah, congratulations, you guys. You hit it, which is rare. A lot of people aren't hitting their Kickstarter goals in this day and age. So.
No. That's why I wanted to set the bar really low, is because I just know that people are struggling, myself included. During the day, I'm a Panera Bread delivery driver. So, we're struggling to make tips and stuff, but, I make do. But, I wanted to be able to afford, I wanted to buy an HD camera to shoot this movie. I wanted to buy some props and stuff, phony limbs, fake blood, costumes like rubber Frankenstein masks and stuff. Basically, my intentions are to go to a Spirit Halloween or a Party City come October and just raid their catalog, just go through and, get a shopping cart and just buy as much, kooky looking Frankenstein stuff as possible and use it all in the movie.
I think Spirit Halloweens are starting to open up a little early.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, there's one in my area. I haven't been to it yet, but
no, me neither. I think there's one close to me as well, but I haven't been there yet.
Yeah, every year though they just seem to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's insane. Like some of the props that they have.
I mean they get pretty expensive too. So
they do. Yeah.
the more money that I can, raise for the Kickstarter just means kind of, the cooler the props, I guess. I could probably keep on this Beard Halloween. It's not essential or anything. It's not totally important.
Right.
Because I have already made my goal. But, the more I make, the better. It'd just be, cool to have more money to play with, more options, more silly props that I can
Right.
on.
Right. Yeah. So what got you into filmmaking? I always ask that to filmmakers, what got you into it?
Well, I've definitely always just loved movies. Like I grew up watching horror films with my dad. Like he kind of like I would graduate from like the black and white Universal monster movies, Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and that was like as a youngster. And then, by the time I was like 10, 11, 12, I had already knocked out like the Friday the 13th series, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw. And then when I became a teenager, I discovered trauma, and I started watching these crazy ass movies with people, getting their heads crushed, and complete eviscerations and stuff, but done in a totally over the top, stupid way where the effects are super cheap but like hilarious. Movies like Dead Alive and stuff by Peter Jackson. So I always just liked that stuff, and I find it just incredibly entertaining. So I've always wanted to be a filmmaker and just entertain people and make movies that are funny or make fun of movies, because I would always have like, slumber parties as a kid, and it's like, hey man, check out this crazy thing that I came across, and it's just fun to watch a terrible movie with friends. So and with Mystery Science Theater, I discovered that as a kid as well, and I just love that show so much. But their restrictions were always like they couldn't show movies that or were R-rated or had like explicit content, because they would just get cut for TV. So, with YouTube, you can basically show whatever you want, and they'll slap like an 18 plus, on your video if there's like nudity or like extreme gore or something. But that was the whole point of like Tro Masterpiece Theater for me, was I wanted to make like an R-rated Mystery Science Theater and riff on movies that had like, nudity and gore and stuff, but just completely just leave it all in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds just about exactly like how I grew up. My mom took me to like every horror movie that came out, starting in like 82. And Creepshow was the first like real horror film I saw in the theater. I was 10 years old. And from there, I was hooked on horror. My mom was taking me to, Burial Ground and Evil Dead 2. Now somebody probably call social services on her and I'd probably get taken away. But yeah, as a kid, being a horror fan was amazing. The 80s had such incredible horror films.
Yeah, I had to pretty much like rent all that stuff, later on in the 90s. But like, going to the video store was always like the coolest thing in the world. You could browse the horror section, and whatever sort of, lurid box cover was there, you could grab it. And, sometimes you could slip the crazier stuff, past mom and dad. Maybe they won't look at the movie and see what it is. And I remember getting stopped up sometimes, though, by like the checkout counter guy, who would then sort of ask, are you sure you should be renting this for your kid? And it would be like, I put on your grave or something like that. And it's like, well, no, I probably shouldn't be watching.
Yeah. The first job I ever had at 18 was at a big video store. It was the first job I ever had. And it was to this day, the best job I ever had. I was 18. I had no bills. I lived at home with my parents, man. I bring home as many movies as I wanted. It's the best job ever.
I never got that experience. I always kind of thought that like working at a video store or a movie theater might be really cool, but I've never done either one of those. I feel like the video store would be cooler just because you're not cleaning up spilled popcorn and drinks and stuff like that. But Friday night was always like the best day of the week, because you could just go to the video store, rent a whole bunch of movies for like $1.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you have a YouTube channel. Have you ever had any problems with YouTube? Did you hear the story about Lloyd and Trauma getting kicked off YouTube?
And it doesn't surprise me in the least, because some of their stuff is raunchier than most. Most movies, most stuff you see on YouTube, even with that 18 plus. Their movies tend to be even more extreme than like the most extreme, where people are literally like defecating themselves inside out, and there's decapitations and blood splattering and poo scenes. So it's not surprising that, their YouTube channel got taken down, because they had like, 250 movies on there for free, and all of them are pretty graphic. So I'm not really that surprised that happened, but I've had my fair share of incidents with YouTube as well, and not necessarily for like explicit content, but more for like I'll get hit, every once in a while for doing an episode of movies to watch on a rainy afternoon, and maybe like the filmmaker sees the episode, so they go to YouTube and try to get my episode taken down. That's happened a couple times where like most filmmakers who end up seeing my show, they have a sense of humor about it and don't care about their film being riffed. At the end of the day, I buy everybody's movies that I riff on. Like I buy the DVD first, and then I do the review, and then I, write some jokes about it and stuff like that. So they're always getting my money, no matter what. And then it's promotion. It's just free promotion for their film. A lot of times for me, like if I see an episode of Mystery Science Theater or something, and if I like the movie, even if it's like cheesy as hell, I'll usually buy the unriffed copy. Like I have quite a few unriffed copies of Mystery Science Theater movies. But sometimes the filmmakers will come after me, and that has happened before. Luckily, Lloyd Kaufman, he got it, and he let me use Poultrygeist and The Battle of Love's Return and just other movies in the Trauma library, because I've done other Trauma films for like movies to watch on a rainy afternoon. Like Rabid Grannies was the first one I ever did, and the Trauma team saw that, because I had never met Lloyd or anybody from Trauma, and they saw my episode of Rabid Grannies and my riff on it, and they ended up forwarding it to Lloyd, and that's how I sort of like started emailing Lloyd and all this stuff. So that was pretty cool. And then he kind of sent me a short list of movies that I could use for rainy afternoon. And so I just started knocking out like 15, 20-minute, reviews and like riffing on various Trauma stuff that he had already pre-approved on this list, like Trauma's War and Redneck Zombies and stuff. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Lloyd is one of my favorite people in the industry. We do a horror film festival, and we've been doing this for 5 years now. And our first year, Lloyd was like our biggest supporter. He said, hey, you know what? You can pick any Trauma film as long as you buy the Blu-ray on our website. You can play it. You can charge for tickets. You can do whatever you want. Just buy it. And that was, for us, that was huge. So I picked, what did I pick? I picked Bloodsucking Freaks. Was our first Trauma movie. That's one of my favorite Trauma movies.
That is an example of a particularly extreme Trauma film. I mean,
it is.
I think the R-rated cut is about 50 minutes long.
It is. It really is. Lloyd hates that movie. That's one of his least favorite movies that he's put out. But I love it. I mean, I saw it as a kid, and it's.
Is that the one that they showed on Joe Bob?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Bloodsucking Freaks and Trauma's War. Maybe one other one. I'm not 100% sure, but I know Bloodsucking Freaks. I think maybe. For him, the reason why he hates it is just because of the sort of pain in the ass that it's been for that company over the years. Because, like, I don't know if you've read his book about like all I need to know about filmmaking I learned from Toxic Avenger, but it says in that book how they cut down the movie to make an R rating out of it, or to create an R-rated version, but it was 50 minutes long. You can't release a 50-minute movie in the theaters. That's absurd. So they took that R rating and they applied it to the unrated cut and just released it that way. But they got sued by the MPAA because you can't do that.
I remember that.
What's ridiculous is the fact that like the reason why they got sued, the reason why they got caught was because some lady brought her like 10-year-old son to see a movie called Bloodsucking Freaks, and she was outraged that it was graphic. Like, what were you expecting?
Yeah, the unrated version is an hour and 24 minutes.
Yeah, so they eviscerated that film. I don't even know what you would be watching in the 50-minute cut. It wouldn't be watchable. There would be nothing to, you wouldn't be able to follow the story at all.
Right.
I mean,
I think the guillotine with the rope in the mouth thing went way too far, but otherwise it was.
The whole movie is just one graphic, disgusting scene on top of the next. That's kind of the whole point of it. It's the name of the game. Is like, let's make this crazy, disgusting exploitation film, and then when you try to make an R-rated version of that, well, it's not going to work.
Yeah. See, our philosophy for our horror film festivals, you've got to see films like this with a group of people. It's one thing to see it in, a theater with a whole bunch of other people, like-minded people. You're feeding off each other's energy, and it's a completely different experience when you're sitting at home in your underpants. It's different. It's different. Like we went to see The Human Centipede 2 in the theater.
Oh, I saw that.
Oh my.
Yeah, when we went, it was Rocky Horror Night, right? So everybody's there dressed up as the Rocky Horror people, and we're just dressed jeans and t-shirts, and like, what are you is this your first time for Rocky Horror? Like, no, we're not here to see Rocky Horror. Oh, what are you here to see? Oh, the Human Centipede Part 2. And all these, Frankenhooker looking people looked at us like we were so strange. We had lobsters crawling out of our ears, but it was a great experience. The movie itself, it's different when you see it at home, but
no, I've seen it one time in the movie theater, and it was like a rock concert, where people were just doing the wave essentially because they were revolted with what they were seeing. And then I bought it, and I watched it again at home, and it's like, this doesn't really have the same effect as being grossed out by a film in unison in a movie theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've been such a big proponent of like the movie theater experience. We're doing our film festival this year, and we have to do it virtual, and because COVID sucks, and I was so against it, but
I mean, with this kind of thing, you got to do it just online if you're going to do it at all. I mean, just last weekend they did the Fantasia Film Festival, and they had to premiere their new Troma film, Shakespeare Shitstorm. I'm sure they wanted a big theatrical release, but they can't. So, they had fans pay, $8 for a virtual movie ticket, and I was one of them. I was there for the premiere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we tried getting that, but we couldn't. We couldn't get that from Lloyd this year. But we did get the Slashing too, Dustin.
Ooh,
well,
nice.
I think, with Shitstorm, it's because it's like their newest thing. They're going to keep it, I think, close to the chest on that one.
Yeah. I don't blame them.
Yeah, I mean,
I have friends who were in that.
I'm surprised he didn't offer you up maybe like Nukem High, Return to Nukem High, Volume 1 and 2. It's new order, but they're not brand new anymore.
Yeah. He offered that. I think we could have gotten a Nukem High last year, but we passed on it. I don't think we didn't play any. No, we didn't play anything from Troma last year. This year we were going to have Lloyd come out. We bought him a plane ticket. Everything was set. We paid his fee, and then COVID hit. So he's gonna give us a virtual roundtable discussion during the festival. So Lloyd is one of my favorite people in the industry. I swear he just wants to help people succeed. Like that's what his mantra is. He wants indie filmmakers to succeed.
A couple of years ago, as like a birthday present, my parents bought me tickets to fly to New York, and I'd set up a tour of the Troma building for the first time. So, I got a full on in-person tour of the Troma building with one of the employees there. And, Lloyd showed up about halfway through because he was, at some meeting or something. But then Lloyd took me out to lunch. And, it's one of those things where it's like, you always hear that Lloyd Kaufman, there's those legends that it's like, oh, he doesn't pay for lunch, or, the craft service on a Troma set is always just a cheese sandwich or something. Yeah. It's like, no, he took me out for, Philly cheesesteak down the street, and he covered it. So that was pretty cool.
Nice. Oh, we have Molly here. I forgot about Molly. You haven't said anything.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I've just been listening and soaking it up and having a good time.
Nice. So if you had to pick any film that you could do like a roast on, what movies would you have in mind?
Well, when I set out to do Tromasterpiece Theater with Troma, my initial pitch was I tried to get Toxic Avenger 3 just because it's sort of like the least of the four. It's not a fan favorite. There's some decent stuff in the movie, but it's not a very good Toxic Avenger movie. So I tried to get that one first, but right off the bat, Lloyd said no Troma, no Toxie movies ever. Those are not on the table. Yeah, it's like, okay, I understand. It's like asking Disney if you can riff on Mickey Mouse or something. That's their logo, so that's their baby. They don't want to give that up. And, okay, sure, fine, no big deal. So that was kind of a white whale, I guess, was Toxie 3. But if I'm going outside of Toxic Avenger and Troma and stuff like that, I don't know. I like how Riff Tracks does big blockbusters and stuff like that, and that's always pretty cool. So maybe something gigantic like that. I liked when they did Anaconda and Godzilla. I like those kind of cheesy, big budget sci-fi action movies. I don't really know if I can think of anything on the top of my head right now. maybe like a full length riff of like Congo or something, because that movie's pretty crappy.
That would be amazing.
Congo.
Congo sucks, but but there's something about it where it's like, that movie sucks, but I wouldn't hate
Seeing it.
watching it a bunch of times and riffing on those dumb apes. Like, I did do it for movies to watch on a rainy afternoon, but like 5-6 years ago, and it wasn't a feature length riff or anything like that. But I think a feature length riff with like silhouettes at the bottom of puppets, that could be a lot of fun.
I would recommend Battlefield Earth.
I've still never seen that movie. I mean,
I saw it in the theater. That's how bad I am.
A lot of like bad movies that have flown under my radar, even where like I've seen like my share of like Birdemic and Sharknadoes and all that stuff, but there are still a few that like Battlefield Earth. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I saw it only once, and it won't leave my head. It was really bad. It was bad.
I believe it.
Like nothing good. So, what do you think of the overall state of horror right now? I mean, it's we're seeing a resurgence the past decade or so with big studios. Horror is one of those things that you don't have to spend a lot of money on the film, and it can just make 100 times its budget.
Well, I mean, I still go. Well, when we could go, I still went to the movies and stuff pretty frequently. I watch just about like everything too, from the minuscule budgets of indie films to like the big budget, Hollywood stuff that comes out in mainstream theaters. And I like seeing newer stuff by like, Eli Roth and like Alexandra Aja. I'm a big fan of his stuff. I thought he made one of the best, horror remakes of all time with Piranha 3D. Like, I think that thing's like sort of
such an underrated movie.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't try to be anything more than it just is. He's really good at that, where it's like last year he made Crawl, and it's just a killer crocodile movie.
Oh man, I loved Crawl.
But it's
Yeah,
good.
He's just saw Crawl.
Good at making like genre pictures. It's like, you want a killer crocodile movie? Here's like the best one. And it's just, he can just do that kind of thing. And I think it's like it's perfect. He nailed it with Piranha, and then he nailed it again with Crawl. It's just, you give him like a certain genre or something, and it's like he will deliver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just saw Crawl last month, and I loved it. I don't know why I didn't see it sooner. It was just a great movie.
Same thing with like what was that? Don't Breathe by Fede Alvarez, who did the Evil Dead remake.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little lukewarm about that particular remake, but I really liked what he did with Don't Breathe, just because it was an original concept and it wasn't based off anything already. Because it's hard to go into a remake with your preconceived notions of feel like the movie should be or something.
Yeah.
But I was glad that he made something like that, and it was totally original, and I ended up having a hell of a time.
Yeah, he is making a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be there. I'll check it out for sure.
It was really good, and I liked his Evil Dead remake. I went in there with an open mind, right? That's how you gotta approach these remakes.
The original trilogy was just so sacred to me that it's just like, no matter what you do, I'm just gonna, maybe in like 10 years I'll be able to look at it again with a clean slate or something, because the Ash versus the Evil Dead series hadn't been made yet. And that's what we all wanted. We didn't want a remake. We wanted more of that. So now we had more of that. Maybe I can backtrack and revisit the remake later.
Yeah, maybe you'll like it. I mean, I liked it for what it was. I liked it.
The gore and the practical effects was amazing. Yeah. However, I didn't like virtually like any of the leads. Like, I didn't really like the characters. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really like expecting another Bruce Campbell type character like Ash. I didn't really expect that, nor did I really want it. But what I got, I wasn't a fan of. Mm-hmm. But, I'll check it out again some other time.
I can see that. But, speaking of remakes, I got to ask, what did you think of Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead? I always got to bring Zack Snyder up.
I love that.
I'm a huge Zack Snyder defender, and it's been hard on social media being a Zack Snyder defender lately.
I can't defend everything that he's made, but I do truly love Dawn of the Dead. That was that, and like Texas Chainsaw Massacre by Marcus Nispel.
Yeah.
Are two of the best like modern horror remakes that I can possibly think of, because they both nailed what they were trying to do, but also successfully, in my opinion, achieved something different. Because with like the Dawn of the Dead remake, if you would have told me they were going to remake Dawn of the Dead and make the zombies run, I would have said that's stupid.
Yep.
But for some reason, it worked in his style, and I think a lot of that also has to do with the fact that James Gunn wrote that script.
Yeah.
I think the characters are fun in that movie because of James Gunn's writing. And then I think the visuals and the action done by Zack Snyder, it was just a good mesh. I think it worked totally.
Yeah, and you mentioned Marcus Nispel too. I'm a huge fan of Marcus Nispel. I loved Texas Chainsaw is probably my favorite modern horror remake. They just
Pretty good.
He just got it. He got it right. And even his Friday the 13th remake, I thought, those are some big shoes to fill, but I thought that his remake was pretty good.
That one I wasn't particularly a fan of. Friday the 13th is my favorite horror franchise of all time. And that's another one of those things where it's like, no matter what you give to me, it's going to sort of come with like me like not wanting to like it, and me sort of just automatically having like a defense mechanism where it's just like, whatever you give to me, I don't want it. But there's parts of that movie that I can enjoy, but it just kind of came off to me like the Texas Chainsaw remake again, because Jason in that movie does a lot of things that are more Leatherface in character. So that's what kind of like turned me off from it. But I still like the guy as a director, and I think he's super talented.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the one thing that turned me off on Friday the 13th, I loved it, but I felt they tried to fit too much story into one film.
I feel like it wasn't just a remake. It was like the first 4 movies crunched into one.
Right,
and
exactly.
Like, don't do that,
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily want like another retreat of the first Friday the 13th where it was just like Jason's mom killing everybody. I think that would have pissed off a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But I also didn't need like 4 movies in one movie. Like that was a little too much.
Yeah.
Because not only do you that
I was pretty happy with it the second time I saw it.
Really?
The first time I was kind of like where you are, and then the second
I was
time
very lukewarm about it. Like, really, that's the best.
All right.
The kills are cool in that movie. It's just overall the movie itself, I don't know. It's just
feels a little flat.
It's all a little flat. It's been in the last 20 minutes. It's all just Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in my opinion, because he's living in like these underground tunnels, like the Leatherface family in Texas Chainsaw 2, and it's like this feels very out of character for this whole thing.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily love that part.
No, I didn't. To me, obviously, I don't own these characters. I don't, pretend to know like the ins and outs of fictional characters. But it's like, for me, he's never done that before in a movie previously made. So like, why is he doing that now?
Well, the idea was that they were trying to make him more of like an outdoorsman, like a survivalist.
No, I get that. That makes sense. But what didn't
they had an explanation for it.
Why are there underground tunnels under Camp Crystal Lake? Like, this is supposed to be a summer camp, and there's like bomb shelters and stuff that he's living in. I don't know.
Well, that made no sense. Yeah.
I call bullcrap on that one.
Well, he had a lot of time on his hands. He did a lot of digging. What did I do?
He created those. I guess they weren't established in the beginning, so he could have.
Yeah, it could have been a military base there. Who knows?
And then they built a summer camp right on top of it.
Yeah.
Abandoned. It's never explained, so anything really could be an acceptance.
I'm gonna have to ask Marcus that. I'm kind of friendly with Marcus. I'm gonna ask him that. I said, how do those tunnels get down there? I'll have an answer for you.
Because he's a good guy.
Maybe.
I don't blame him. That's a script problem.
Right. Yeah. My favorite Marcus Nispel film, other than Texas Chainsaw, is probably Pathfinder.
That one I have not seen.
Super underrated film. No, hardly anybody's seen it, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
I know what
film.
you're talking about, and it kind of came and went, and not a lot saw it. But I know what movie you're talking about.
Yep. Very, very good movie.
I'm sort of one last note on the Friday the 13th remake.
Sure.
I keep hoping that Dead by Daylight can get a hold of Jason's license, and I hope they actually put remake Jason in the Dead by Daylight game if they ever get the opportunity to do that. Because I think Jason in the remake fits the game a little bit more. Like, he's very athletic in the remake.
Yeah,
I think
they got for that Jason
kind of a jarring thing.
Derek Mears.
Yeah, I think he did a good job. It was just
really good.
I feel like the whole tunnel thing and him like capturing someone and like keeping them as a victim, it didn't feel like the character to me, and that's not his fault. But he was menacing and brutal as hell.
He's a good actor when you put him in a costume like that. You know, he was Swamp Thing in the Swamp Thing series.
I mean,
The Swamp Thing was pretty great.
I didn't see that, but I am a big Swamp Thing fan.
You should see it. You'll be pleased.
Yeah.
You'll be a little disappointed that it ends
right so
abruptly.
Climactically, because I think they got the rug pulled out from under them. They weren't expecting to be canceled so soon.
Yeah.
Oh, it was because their budget was so high, I think.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything the show was doing. There was supposed to be, I think, 2 or 3 more episodes. And so you kind of get... It ends with a reveal of, like, a big Swamp Thing villain. And it's like, oh, you don't get to see him actually fight the villain. Oh.
That sucks. And there's no talks of any sort of, like, other streaming services, like, picking it up or anything? No?
There were thoughts that it would go to HBO Max when that was announced, or when DC announced they were doing their DC Universe streaming thing, they were going to move it to that, but I haven't heard anything. And
I've heard it's starting to air on the CW, so maybe CW will pick it up with a smaller budget.
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully.
That tends to happen when shows switch hands like that. Maybe somebody will, take the reins and, do what they can. That'd be nice.
Hold on a second.
So, if you had a choice to remake any film, what film would you remake? You're given $100 million to remake this film.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't want to remake something that's already good. I'm in the camp of remake a movie that, underachieved what it set out to do, but maybe if you threw like $100 million at it, you could actually maybe sort of see like what the actual filmmaker's intentions were. And like that's what my theory is, at least, but I've never really thought about like what movie I would like to remake. I'd say maybe something like I think it'd be fun to see a movie like Manos: The Hands of Fate, like with a budget. I mean, there's been a lot of like, unofficial sequels, but they just kind of rehash the same thing and they don't actually try to make like a good movie out of it. So it's like, what if you took that original idea and made it like a scary cult horror film? That could be something. Or something like Ed Wood made, like imagine Plan 9 from Outer Space, but like with $100 million budget. What would that look like?
That would be pretty amazing. Honestly, that would be amazing.
Not necessarily something I would want to like even like tackle myself, but it's just like I would like to see that. Like what was the vision? What did he want to make? I mean, I guess we kind of got a taste of it with like Tim Burton's Mars Attacks would be maybe the closest thing. It's got these big UFO, scenes, it didn't have any sort of like Bela Lugosi or vampire type characters. But I just feel like movies that maybe were like made with a minuscule budget, if they had the bigger budget and could, have the chance to succeed in a way that like, in the 1950s, that had never had a chance to be a big budget, like War of the Worlds. There was just no way. But if you did it now, today, maybe it could have been something.
Yeah,
that's where I would go with trying to remake movies. Like, don't remake Friday the 13th again or Halloween again. Those movies are fine as is. All the remakes are just like, we have these properties that we can make money off of. So if we do another one, it's going to make money. No more of that. But of course, no studio is going to remake a film that maybe failed before because it's not going to make any money. It's not a popular property.
Right.
So that's kind of the catch-22, I think, of remakes is they're never going to remake something that sucked because it's not going to make any money. They're just going to keep rehashing the same thing that they know is going to make money. Like, wasn't it just announced that like Blumhouse is going to be doing another thing? Like,
a remake of the thing.
We have enough
of the thing with Carpenter's blessing.
Like the fourth thing, and it's like John Carpenter already did it, man, in 1980. Like, leave it alone. We're done. No more things. Like, I'm not excited about that. They already did it in 2011. It was terrible. Like, why try it again? Like, don't do it.
It was quite bad.
One of the reasons that these studios are remaking these horror films from the 80s is they're getting ready to lose the license.
That makes
sense. And they want to milk as much money. That's why they made Pet Sematary, because Paramount was going to lose the license. So they're like, well, how can we squeeze more money out of Pet Sematary? Let's remake it. Child's Play. they were going to lose. Sony was going to lose the license. You know, the story was going to go back to the writer. That's a big thing now. There's an attorney in Hollywood that's fighting for all these writers. You know, after 30 years, the story reverts back to the writer. So now we're seeing all these movies because studios are going to lose the license. Kind of like the whole Roger Corman Fantastic Four story.
Oh yeah,
where he owned the rights. He had to make a movie, never released the movie.
Otherwise, like it was either make the movie or lose the rights. So he made the movie, but then never released the movie, thus obtaining the rights, because that was like the loophole. It's like, well, I made the movie. Sure, I didn't release it, but I made the movie, and so by making the movie, you can still retain the rights.
Yep.
You know
exactly. Yep. And that's why we got the Fant Four stick. That's what I call from Josh Trank. Which, you know, that movie could have been something. That could have been something, but I think the studio
blame
just
him at all. I blame the studios for probably like excising a good like third of the film. Because I've only ever seen it once, and that was in the theaters. And I just remember about halfway through, all of a sudden, it jumps ahead so far, and you're like, "Wait a minute, you know, how the hell did we get from this to this? We didn't see any of the middle." So it's basically like the studio saw like this movie's too long, or it's not, the pacing is slow. So let's just take out the entire middle, and no one will notice. And it's like, well, yeah, because the story is gone. They go from being like up and coming heroes to established heroes, like in a matter of 10 minutes. And it's like, nah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all.
Yep. It was a great film up until the middle, like you said, when they do that time jump, then it just falls apart. The second half just falls apart.
Time jump, and it's like, okay, there's definitely a shitload of footage missing here. Yeah. And then it just kind of ends. You know, you get like a half hour of an ending, and it's like Doom has barely been established, you know, and then he gets taken out pretty damn easily. So it's just like, that's just studio meddling, you know. Yeah,
and I feel that they put Josh Trank, I think they threw him under the bus too.
Oh, totally. They don't care about him. Yeah. They don't really care about people like that unless you're like, you know, James Gunn or Jon Favreau or something. They're really, you know, like established good filmmakers and stuff like that. They probably won't come to your defense. You're kind of on your own.
Right. Yeah. And you know, he made Chronicle. I love Chronicle, and his Capone. I don't know if you saw Capone.
I didn't see it. I heard mixed reviews though.
It was okay. It wasn't as good as I thought it could be.
I heard it was really weird.
It did, yeah. It got really weird. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's just a weird filmmaker. Like, I was reading an interview with the writer of Chronicle, and he said, you know, Chronicle succeeded despite Josh Trank. So,
that's kind of that's
you know, that the poor guy gets thrown under the bus on anything that he does.
Yeah. I don't really know anything about like his real life, you know, outside of just, you know, his art. But you know, I feel bad for forming any sort of opinion on him just based on Fantastic Four, because that's not his fault.
Right. No, it wasn't. That was completely studio. Yeah, that was completely studio meddling.
2.5 hours long or something, like your average Marvel film, and they probably were like, nope, that doesn't work. You know, we want to chop this in half and get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think of comic book movies? Those are kind of like the big thing now. Do you think those are a fad, or do you think they're going to...
I mean, I hope they stay forever, because I think, like, I love horror films. Horror is obviously number one. Mm-hmm. However, I think it, you know, had these Marvel movies existed, you know, like 20 years ago when we were kind of growing up, you know, I think it'd be like neck and neck, because I think they're so much fun. They're so exciting. And I just love going to the movies, or I used to love going to the movies, and every couple months there was just another Marvel film continuing this gigantic story. Because, you know, in the 90s, all we had were like, you know, the Batman films that came out, you know, and you know, we watched those kind of nosedive. And prior to that, we had the 4 Superman films, but those also nosedived. So it wasn't until really like the early 2000s when they started like making Spider-Man. But I mean, I feel like if all these movies were made, like the whole MCU was made like 20 years ago, I probably would have appreciated or been as obsessed with those films as horror films, because I love these Marvel films.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're incredible. And Kevin Feige, you know, he's such a, you know, what an incredible story maker. He's just, I'm
really smart too in his choices, you know, like his choices of, you know, these are the characters we're going to do this way in this order, introduce them this way, and then pepper them in there, you know, every couple of years. And now we're going to have, you know, a big, you know, ultimate event film with everybody that's already been introduced. And it's not like, it's a lot of content. It's a lot of movies you have to see. And that might be overwhelming to some people. But if you frequent films, if you go to the movies a lot, and if this is like your thing, and if you like it, you're gonna keep up with it.
Right. Yeah, I'm very curious to what he's going to do with the Star Wars franchise. He's got one film that he's producing. I'm super curious to see what he does.
I'm sure it'll probably be better than what ended up happening with the new movies, because I did not like the last Skywalker, or the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
I thought that was just like too many visions, too many cooks in the kitchen trying to make this big third film, and it's just like you get like a little bit from Force Awakens in there, but it also gets like shoved down your throats, and there's also like some stuff that was introduced in The Last Jedi, but then there's like backpedaling from The Last Jedi, so it didn't feel like a cohesive, like straight vision. It felt like we have to appease to a certain amount of people, and they didn't sort of just make it in this like cone that they should have, and not just don't listen to people. Make your vision, make this a movie. And I think sort of they were thinking about what fan reaction may be, and it just seemed like second guessing and stuff like that, and it just didn't seem like a movie to me.
Yeah, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. That's my favorite franchise of all time. And after The Force Awakens, I loved it. I love The Force Awakens.
Oh, me too.
I was so excited to see what was next.
So gung ho to see. Oh, this is going to be a great trilogy. However, I don't feel Last Jedi is a sequel to Force Awakens at all, and then Rise of Skywalker is definitely not a sequel to Last Jedi. Like you have three movies that aren't like they're tethered together through characters, but not through like tone or like a ultimate story arc. It's just kind of like we'll introduce this character in the second movie, but then ditch them in the third. Or remember that character we introduced in the first movie? Well, now they're getting paid off in the third, but they were mostly absent from the second one. Or we're going to reintroduce whole new concepts and ideas that weren't discussed at all in the previous two. It's like, what a mess.
Yeah, like I said, I love The Force Awakens. I was so excited. At the very end of The Force Awakens, Rey's reaching out. I was so excited. I was like, oh, man, 2 years. I can't.
I'm waiting for the correct sequels to Force Awakens.
Yeah. So it's like, when The Last Jedi came out, I was like, oh, God, what, Luke throws the lightsaber over. I was like, oh, this is, I don't know about this. And it just, they lost me with The Last Jedi. Like, I think The Last Jedi ruined Star Wars. I think they did it's a beautiful film. Rian Johnson's an awesome filmmaker, just not in the Star Wars universe. It was so, like you said, there were tethered characters, but they were so disconnected in tone. They were just completely different films.
My favorite stuff is like in Last Jedi when Finn and what was her other
Rose,
yeah. They just go off to that like casino for like 20 minutes, and absolutely none of that is part of like anything. It's just a big waste of time. Like that to me was the biggest time waster in any of the three new movies. Like cut that casino stuff because it's not important to the story at all.
Yeah, that I really think that they were just pandering to like political correctness, I guess is the term I'm looking for. Animal abuse is bad.
Yeah.
Old white men are warmongers. Old white men are bad. Old white men are mean because they're warmongers. Animal abuse is bad. That's all that scene was. That it was
complete filler, and it's like that's the best you can come up with these characters. Like, where's a better adventure for Finn? Did you not just see Force Awakens? Like, he was kicking ass in that movie. He was holding his own with a damn lightsaber, and now you're throwing it into a casino. Like, this sucks.
Yeah, I don't know if you read the GQ interview. That's all in the news now with John Boyega. He just came out and blasted Star Wars and Disney for the way they treated Finn, and I don't blame him. He was a great character. Should have been explored more.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, they really, I think, mucked that one up.
And I felt the way about The Force Awakens that you feel about Last Jedi, Chris, and you feel about Rise of Skywalker, Addison. So I was not a fan of the new trilogy from the start.
Okay. Did you think it was just over nostalgic?
I think it was just, you like this, right? Well, here's some more of it. Remember this scene? You like this scene, right? Dance, monkeys. Yeah.
Well, and then my rebuttal
remember the Death Star? We're gonna do it bigger. It's bigger. It's badder. It's
More.
It's the same
more.
damn plot.
That I didn't like. The Death Star thing, that's lame. Don't do that again.
With
However,
the schematics built into a droid.
yeah,
I actually did have that Incredibles line play when they introduced Starkiller Based. It's bigger. It's badder. And it's like
I will admit that was lazy, but I liked the character of Rey, and I liked her introduction. I like all that stuff. I think it's just a pleasant, fun, good feeling movie that just happens to have the same ending as A New Hope.
They could have done so much more with it. They could have made it cool. I think the theories going around that they were going to make Leia be like a Sith or.
I had heard that they were going to make her like another Jedi Knight, and they just didn't get to film any of that stuff.
No, there were all these rumors going around that there was a leaked cover with her with the red lightsaber, and they were going to make her like
that too. But I think she just they only had so much footage, and
right.
Yeah, they had to make do with what they got.
It kind of felt to me like they may have been planning to do something like that with it, and then when she died, they had to deal with what they had and make something work.
Like you can tell in Rise of Skywalker, that footage, any shot that goes to her is totally like it's not connected at all because it's like the outline of her body is like fuzzy. So it's like, well, they shot that in front of a green screen and stuck her in this scene. Like she was not part of this scene.
Yeah, and you could tell that her line delivery was two completely different characters. Like in most of those, she was talking to Han Solo. You know, it just it
just I appreciate what they attempted to do, but I think I would have rather just done without it. I think
me too.
Yeah, they did Han Solo really dirty in The Force Awakens, and I think that's what I was most upset about.
Because I always knew that Harrison Ford tried to weasel his way out of Return of the Jedi long ago, so he finally got what he wanted, and so whatever. His story arc is over anyway, and he wanted to die. Like that's not a Star Wars thing. That's a Harrison.
That was him.
Yeah, that was him.
He wanted to die in Return of the Jedi.
He wanted to die in Empire.
He
wanted to be frozen and be done.
Yeah.
But I was fine with his death. And
this was the first. It was the first moment where, like, I mean, I knew that about Harrison Ford, but it was the first time I like really felt it. And there was another podcast I listened to. Like, they talked about they described his performance as, it's like, all right, what does the cue card say? It's like, no, don't read that part. What does the card say? I need a gold boat filled with more gold boats.
I think he was better in Force Awakens than the last Indiana Jones film. Because that film, I mean, whatever, anything negative that can be said about that film,
they did call it his. They did call Force Awakens Harrison Ford's second worst movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
That last Indiana Jones movie
that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah,
Crystal Skull.
It was a forced attempt to try to reboot the series with Shia LaBeouf as the Indiana Jones character.
No one wants that.
And it was bad.
As a human being on this planet, is this what you want? The answer would universally be no.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I felt about the Bill and Ted as well. So
I think we're done with Indiana Jones films. I know they don't have a script yet. They want to make another film. They don't have a script.
Now it's like been 12 years on top of however old he was in the last one, and he's
like, I think he just turned like 78. By the time they go to cameras, he'll be in his 80s. That's not Indiana Jones.
No,
I didn't mind the idea of having Shia LaBeouf as like the main character. He didn't do terribly. The script was just awful. The whole story was awful.
The dumbest part for me in that movie is when he's got both legs like stretched out, one on each on a Jeep, and he's just getting hit in the nuts with like trees. That's not Indiana Jones humor. Get the hell out of here.
No.
I watched a something that was comparing the movies and making fun of the last one, and it was comparing the amount of deaths and kills. There's like nothing in this last one.
Yeah, all I really remember is like maybe that dude who falls in that fire ant mound, and then just like all the fire ants go in his head, and it's all like CGI and stupid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's really all I even remember. Maybe at the end.
What's your favorite Indiana Jones film? Temple of Doom, 100% all the way. That is the best Indiana Jones film.
That's what I grew up watching the most, just because it was so yucky.
Yep.
That's just kind of my thing. Is like, hey, that guy's getting his heart ripped out. That's like horrifying and bloody.
Yep.
I want it.
Same here.
Temple
Same
of
here.
Doom traumatized me as a kid.
Good.
That's exactly
Good.
why
That's why you know it's a good movie.
it scared the shit out of me, and it's got yucky bugs, and it's got that whole dinner scene where they're carving up the
monkey brains.
Monkey brains. I love that shit. So, I mean, I like the trilogy, the original trilogy. I love them all.
Yeah.
I just recently watched Last Crusade again, but it's something about Temple of Doom because it's basically just a horror film. That's why I'm drawn to it.
That's my favorite too. Like I feel about it where so there was a Clerks TV series for a very brief while, and they do a Temple of Doom parody in that.
It's good.
You know, like Jay and Silent Bob are watching The Ritual, and when they pull the heart out, like Jay stands up, yeah, tear his heart out. Yeah. And that's pretty much how I feel about Temple of Doom.
It was awesome.
It was so violent that I think, wasn't it like that and Gremlins got the PG-13 to be created because it was too traumatizing.
People complained left and right, and Steven Spielberg petitioned the MPAA. We need another rating.
That stuff, like, warranted PG-13. When to me, I saw that movie at such a young age, and I didn't think it was like overtly crazy or anything like that.
No, I mean Jaws was PG.
Yeah. Jaws was PG. That movie's got news in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. Jaws is scarier for sure.
Jaws didn't bother me as much as Temple of Doom did for some reason.
Well, I mean, it is scary. Both those movies are scary, but I love them both because I like that feeling anyway. So, there was never really a film that I wouldn't watch because it was like too scary or anything. Like, I mean, Blair Witch came out and like my mom wouldn't let me see it, and so it's like, what's so bad about this movie? And then I finally see it. It's like, that movie's not that scary. I like it because it's cool and like it's one of the earlier examples of found footage. But I think in my head, I'm just assuming she probably, because of the language, maybe didn't want me to see it because there's a lot of swearing in it. But I don't know. I didn't think that movie was scary. I just thought it was neat.
Yeah, scary movies, horror doesn't really bother me. It's sometimes extreme movies, like a Serbian film, push me over the edge.
Yeah, I don't like that stuff either. Like, I'll watch it maybe once just to sort of cross it off the list of like, well, I've seen that, so now I know what these people are talking about if they ever bring it up. Most of the time, those movies are so shocking just to be shocking that they sort of dull themselves out by becoming overly shocking. And like, no, you're no longer shocking.
They become almost funny. Like that movie made me laugh because it was like, really, we're trying so hard.
I just felt let down after I saw it. Like I know I didn't see like any cut version. It was extreme. I just kind of thought like that was it. That's what everybody's been talking about. Maybe that's like bad because I'm so desensitized.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Maybe that's what it means.
Yeah, I don't know if did you guys ever see The Bunny Game? That's another one of those extreme.
That trailer looked too extreme, and I was just like, nah, I'm not interested.
Yeah, that was definition of being extreme just to be extreme. The girl that was in it was a performance artist that did this stuff on stage, so they brand her on film and it's all real. And like, that's not entertainment. That's not something that
shave her head and like cut her up with razor blades and stuff. It's like, I don't really want to see that.
Right. Like, that's not my thing. Like,
super entertaining about like actually seeing a human being like brutalized on film. You're like borderline snuff at that point, If I know if it's like a fake head, that's there's a difference between like someone making a fake head, like Tom Savini or somebody, and cutting it off, but then like actually seeing the real stuff. I don't want to mess with the real stuff.
Yeah. Right. Faces of Death was kind of a hard watch, although knowing that most of it is actually fake helped.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Faces of Death. I saw that as a kid, like every kid in the 80s did, and it was like I thought everything was real. Everything looks so real, and it was bloody, and I'm like, oh my god, the box says it's all real, and then I watch it again in my 20s, and I'm like, this is so fake.
I mean,
like I remember
real stuff in there, like
there's like news footage, but the scene with the monkey brain, like that's
it was kind of
completely fake. I'm like, I can't believe it's like a rubber monkey they bought at Toys R Us.
It was kind of my introduction to collecting movies in Milwaukee, because it was one of the first things I found. I found the Faces of Death.
What that says about Milwaukee.
I found the Faces of Death collector set, like all 4 of them, from Gorgon Video.
I've never
I
seen
found that at Goodwill, like my first week here.
Someone just
So,
decided I don't need this in my life anymore.
well, I don't know what it was doing there, but I got those and the Sorority House Massacre movies, and the Slumber Party Massacre movies, like all in one trip. Like I found like $100 worth of DVDs at Goodwill, and I was like, I knew about Faces of Death, but I didn't really know a lot about it. And I was like, can I really watch this? Like, should I watch this?
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at the DVD and it's like the special effects of Faces of Death. And I'm like, wait a minute, special effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really helped. And it wasn't as crazy as I thought it was going to be.
I think also because of the internet now, we've seen way worse stuff than whatever's more readily available is way worse than whatever they put into a movie 30 years ago.
Right. Yeah, we
Definitely.
we
It's
have so
very
much at the tip
dated.
of our fingers.
Yeah, I do feel fairly desensitized towards movies that, like, maybe the average person, it doesn't do anything to them.
Mhm.
But then when you start messing around with the real stuff, then I tap out and it's like, no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Well, I know I'm going to go to Goodwill a couple times now and see if I can.
Sounds like whoever, got rid of their horror movie collection
Yeah.
had a pretty
One
good
person.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I find all kinds of crazy stuff around here. About a month ago, I was at Half Price Books, and I found the Hellraiser Scarlet box set by Arrow.
Oh, that thing's
Like,
rare as hell.
Yeah, it was still sealed. Like I got it for $150,
Oh, wow.
which is
Nice.
still a lot, but about like half of what
Whatever
it actually sells for.
Yeah.
So I get around and I just find stuff.
Yeah, we
I
haunt
have a
our
YouTube-
Goodwills.
I have a YouTube channel for it, The Crypt of Home.
Yeah, I don't really have anything like that either. I have I used to have like an FYE and that they had used stuff, but it was all just kind of mainstream stuff, like nothing weird or anything. But
You don't always find something weird.
yeah,
It depends on the day you go.
We see it as sort of like we'll buy something used from somebody if we see value in it, if we can flip it, at
Mhm.
double.
Exactly.
I think like probably the biggest thing that I ever got that I was proud of was 2 years ago I went to this like half price like book shop that also sold DVDs, and I managed to get like a really, really out of print volume box set of Mystery Science Theater.
Ooh.
Because there was one that was pulled from shelves because it had a Godzilla episode in there, and that one goes for like a ton of money on eBay now, and I managed to snag it for like $14 used, and I don't think those people knew what they had because you could flip that thing
Clearly
on
not.
for 200, used. Brand new was like 500, like that thing's never going to see the light of day again, unless they like really like beg and plead and pay Toho, But I don't think that set will ever be re-released.
No, I can't imagine. Toho doesn't like to license Godzilla out.
I
Very,
can't-
very protective.
I think because I have that Criterion Godzilla box set that came out back in like December, and I was somewhat
That's a great
disappointed
set.
because it's got mainly like the original Japanese cuts and not like the cheesily dubbed American cuts that I'm accustomed to.
Mhm.
So I kept most of my like Godzilla DVDs because they have the cheesy, English dub. But now I've got like the uncut Japanese Godzilla movies from the 60s and 70s, on Blu-ray. It's just that there's no option to listen to the cheesy, American dubbed audio.
With Raymond Burr.
Which was annoying. I watched through that set this summer. There was one day where I watched 8 Godzilla movies like all in a row, and it was like I am so sick of subtitles.
Yeah. No, like I usually don't mind, but in that case, it was like these aren't the versions of the movies I know. I'd rather be able to have the option to listen to the cheesy English dub, even though that's not what the actual filmmakers intended. That's what I know.
It's what you remember. Like, I have Godzilla versus Megalon on VHS tape in a box.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I still kept all my cuts, but also like in that box set, because it's the original Japanese versions, there's like added gore and stuff that I had never really seen before, like of Godzilla getting smashed in the face and like blood spurts out of his nose, and that's not in the American cut. I
like
think
the fights against Gigan. Yeah.
yeah, when he's getting, hit with Gigan's hook and it's just like spraying blood all over the place. Like I'm pretty sure like that stuff got cut out for the American cut.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure too, because I saw that and I was like, damn.
I know. Or like in Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, Mechagodzilla tears apart Anguirus's jaw. Blood just starts spraying out, and I don't think that's in the American cut either. I didn't recall ever seeing that because that was pretty graphic.
What do you guys think about the most recent Godzillas, the American Godzillas?
Love them.
I'm not a fan.
No.
Oh, really?
Give me a guy in a rubber suit. I don't like the CGI stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can see the purist. I can see the purist argument for that.
Mhm.
I thought the newest one was one of the best Godzilla movies we've ever gotten.
It was better than the previous American version.
King of the
Monsters. I hated the one before it.
The
With,
2014 one where Bryan Cranston dies in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
like, why would you cast him and then kill him off? Like, what a stupid, decision. That's why I thought, like, oh, Bryan Cranston and Godzilla like in the same movie. This is gonna be sweet. Like, just gone halfway through. Like, what a waste.
Well, as we now know from Rogue One, Gareth Edwards isn't actually that good.
No,
So-
I didn't.
I loved Rogue One.
I didn't like that one either.
You didn't like Rogue One?
No.
Yeah.
I hated it when I first saw it because when I first saw it, I had like double pneumonia. I was really sick. I'm in the theater. I'm coughing up a lung, and I'm like, oh, I just hate this movie. But then I saw it again, and I'm like,
Yeah. I just
see.
going into the film, you kind of already know these characters are all going to die. So what's the point of this? I mean, sure, it's maybe like a one-off adventure film, take it at that value, but still at the same time, I just didn't have much fun with it.
Yeah, I didn't like the character of Cassian Andor, Diego Luna, and I don't understand why he's getting his own series. I didn't like the character.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, to me, it's just like here's a scrappy band of characters who you will never see again. So don't get invested in any of them. That's kind of rendering the whole point of the movie like just useless. Like, I mean, I know there's fans of it and stuff like that, and I don't hate it. It's just I didn't think it was very much fun.
I think it pandered to the fans pretty hard at times, especially the end with Darth Vader. That was a total fan moment.
Yeah, Darth Vader stuff was all cool.
That was acceptable. I liked that part. I'll give them that.
Yeah. However, I did not like Darth Vader's pun that he has like halfway through the film. He
try not to choke on your aspirations.
Oh my god! Who wrote that garbage?
That was total Vader. That was
the total Vader. That's Freddy Krueger. Like that shouldn't be bleeding into Star Wars like that. Don't put that in your Star Wars movie.
Try not to choke on your aspirations, director.
Yeah, like you would never say some crap like that.
Well, I liked it. But I like the prequels too, so I like everything except for The Last Jedi. We'll just put it like that way.
Okay.
So I've been thinking about this for a while since we were talking about remakes. What did you think of the Hills Have Eyes remake?
I think it's great.
I thought that was
another one of
really
those like mid 2000s like great remake that surprised you, because you didn't think it would be really any good. Like they're remaking this 70s horror film by Wes Craven, and that movie's pretty good by itself, and to remake it, I don't know, like why would you do that? But then it turns out it was actually really good. And I think it's Alexandra Aja. Like, he can just take something and just make it sweet because he's good at that genre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the Maniac remake too. He had a hand in that, which oh my god, that might be my favorite remake.
I think mine is probably like none of the newer ones, but like the Blob from the 80s.
That's a hell of a remake too.
I love that movie. I grew up watching that movie like all the time because they'd always play on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene where the guy gets like sucked down the drain, that up in my nose.
Yeah. Directed by the same guy who directed The Mask, which I recently learned.
I didn't know that. That's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
I know
Chuck Russell.
by Frank Darabont, I think. maybe not. No, it was written by the guy who I think directed Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors.
Yep, that's Chuck Russell.
Chuck Russell, yeah.
He directed The Mask too.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. No, I know.
yeah. The Mask was by New Line.
Yeah,
So it had a lot of people involved. Actually, their original idea they had for The Mask was to have it be a horror movie, and The Mask was going to be kind of like Freddy. But then they went into like pure comedy fantasy.
that makes sense.
Thankfully.
I'm glad they did that instead because that was
The comics.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
Jim Carrey
comics The
does.
Mask is
Jim
based
Carrey
on.
doesn't do too well when it comes to horror. I don't know
No,
if
he
you guys saw
doesn't.
the
The
number
comics
23. Not a
That
good
The
movie.
Mask was based on were actually pretty grim dark. You know, like Stanley Ipkiss is like a psychopath.
They probably figured at the time too that that's just probably not how they wanted to market Jim Carrey. I would imagine. Like
No.
he's he did Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber, so let's just have another comedy hit.
Yeah, made him money.
Yeah,
Mask
kinda-
was a big hit.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. My Blu-ray of The Mask actually came with Dumb and Dumber, and I've never seen Dumb and Dumber,
Really?
so
Wow.
I don't know what to expect.
Did you like it?
You can expect a good time.
I haven't seen it yet.
I watched it. Okay.
I was thinking I might watch it tonight.
I think that's probably a good choice. Don't watch the sequel though. The sequel is not very good.
I probably won't. So most of
Or the prequel.
Yeah, I've never even seen the prequel.
That was pretty bad.
I already know like
It was pretty bad.
Yeah. Looked
I have
terrible.
like 80 Blu-ray movies that I could watch.
Oh yeah.
In my unwatched movie pile, which is
I think every
giant.
collector has that pile where it's just
Yeah.
like maybe you chisel away like 5 or 10, but then you just buy 20 more. So you're always in like movie collector debt.
Yeah, for me, it's a closet. I've got a whole closet of movies that I haven't seen yet.
You know, one really cheesy, awful, but at the same time really, really good movie that I keep going back to that we reviewed a while back was. Have you ever seen Turbo Kid?
Oh yeah,
Oh, Turbo Kid is good.
But
fun.
it looks sweet.
We reviewed it. We've got a movie review segment, and we watched it. And initially, pretty much everyone but me hated it. And now the more that they go back to it, they refer to it, and actually, it was a pretty good movie. If you haven't seen it, you should.
Did I suggest Kung Fury to you guys? Did you guys do that on a show?
We did do Kung Fury, yes.
What did you think of Kung
probably
Fury?
suggested it.
I know, yeah, I did because I love that movie. It's an amazing movie.
It was weird, but also pretty well done for what it was.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was. It's going to be a feature with Arnold Schwarzenegger now.
Really?
Yeah, he's going to play the president.
I mean,
You can't go wrong in a movie where Arnold Schwarzenegger is playing the president of the United States.
Sure, why not?
because that was the one with Hitler and I
Hitler
enjoyed
and Vikings, and they go back in time, and they have
And
Hacker
Hacker
Man that
Man.
turns into a computer. Yeah.
it. I enjoyed it.
Did you see Kung Fury, Addison?
No.
Oh, it's a short film, but it's
Yeah, I think
It's only a half hour long. Do yourself a favor and watch it, man. You will be very pleased. It's on
Yeah, you will.
YouTube.
okay. I've heard of it. Yeah, I've just never seen it.
It's
It
a fun
has
movie.
it has a song, "True Survivor," sung by David Hasselhoff.
Okay.
It's pretty.
Yeah, that was
It's pretty wild.
that film was a big Kickstarter success story too. They hit their goal, and then their extended goal was to have David Hasselhoff sing a song for the movie, and they're going to do a music video, and it's just total '80s cheese. It's awesome.
It
Somebody
is
involved in the
madness.
known David Hasselhoff then to like promise that. Like,
Yeah.
Imagine like promising that and then getting your money for the gold and then not being able to deliver. Like that would suck.
That would suck. Yeah.
I'm just hearing the song now. Out of time, running in and out of time.
I know you're going to listen to it tonight. Now you're going to jam to it.
I'm hearing it in my mind right now.
There you go.
That's why I'm laughing so much.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think it's time to wrap up. Addison, why don't you tell us where we can find you? And
All right. Well, I'm on Facebook, just my name, Addison Binek, and then same thing with Twitter and Instagram. And then movies to watch on a rainy afternoon. There's 120 episodes for free on YouTube. Same thing with Tro Masterpiece Theater. And right now, I'm still running my Kickstarter for Roast Masterpiece Theater. Yep, there it is. If you go there, there's like 200 videos on there because it's not music videos and stuff that I edited over the years. But yeah, Roast Masterpiece Theater is coming soon. I'm gonna hopefully start shooting in October. Have a super cheesy Frankenstein movie with a guy in a rubber Frankenstein mask, totally just like hanging off his neck. It's so cheesy, so lame, so dumb, and then the characters from Tro Masterpiece Theater, Corny, Reilly, and myself as the theater usher, we're gonna riff on our own movie. So it's gonna be this very meta project that I hope to start shooting in October once I receive the Kickstarter funds, and just run with it. See how cheesy and dumb and silly we can make it.
Awesome. Well,
Nice.
good luck. Hope everything works out good for you. I hope
Yeah.
COVID doesn't. I hope COVID-19 doesn't hurt your
No,
shoot.
that was another thing is by keeping everything sort of like small and low budget, it's going to be a small crew. You know what I mean? Maybe like 3, 4, 5 people at most. Not some big crazy production or anything. Just to keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it safe. Keep it just a really contained project and nothing that would get anyone sick or compromise anybody or anything. And that's just kind of because I want to make stuff, but you really can't work on big productions, so you just gotta chop everything down to just the bare essentials.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson was just diagnosed with COVID-19, and so now the Batman is delayed again. So
That sucks.
sucks. But
It probably was just too soon to start filming, man. Like you just can't do that right now. I don't know
And they
when.
were filming in the UK too, where it was supposed to be safer.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
I know that. That's nuts, man. Because I just there's all these movies that I want to see, and they're not releasing them, or they're doing like video on demand for $20, or you got to go to the drive-in, and like, that's fine and all, but eventually we're gonna hit a point where we're gonna not have movies to release because they haven't been shooting the last 6 months. So that's gonna be, I think, really interesting when there's not gonna be any movies to release video on demand, or not gonna be movies to release in drive-in. That'll be like a really weird time.
yeah,
Because there's like this
something that I've been
back
saying is indie films have been really keeping everything afloat in the industry.
Yeah. Because we can keep everything so low, and because we can't afford like 50 to 100 crew members. Just by default, we're kind of edging out everybody else, the big wigs and stuff like that. So hopefully we can make something fun with this cheesy, bloody, stupid Frankenstein thing, and then riff it ourselves.
Yeah. Well, best of luck. I hope we can come on the show again. Maybe when you get filming wrapped up, come back on.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
All right. We'll be back next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.